Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for joining us at Finding Hope Along the Journey, where each week I share a caregiver's perspective to managing life, chaos, and everything in between. This is a special day for me because this is my first guest highlight episode, and I thought it would be perfect to introduce someone who I've met along my journey, Jodi Nieslowski. I know I'm going to say that wrong again, so Nieslowski.
Yes.
And Jodi became a caregiver for her husband, Brent, in 2020. So Brent's accident actually happened 6 months to the day after my husband, Chris's accident. We met through Facebook, of all places. So social media is a great tool in this realm of things. I had introduced myself into the spinal cord peer mentor support group in the United States. And a PT friend actually is who referred me to that. And she was like, I think you might learn some things from these people. And super useful group. They're very open to answering questions about spinal cord injury in particular for that group. Jodi reached out to me because our husband's levels of injury are very similar. And of course, spinal cord injuries are very different, each one. But, we've been able to stay in touch and cheer each other along the way, cheering each other on. And I'm absolutely stoked that you're here to be my first guest. And because we're on this journey together. So Welcome.
Hi.
All right. So, and actually I did want to share, I went back all the way to the beginning of our chats, and
oh gosh, scary.
Yeah, and it was a week after Brent's injury, and I loved it because I got it at like 6:30 in the afternoon. So it was late, so it was evident to me that I'm like, okay, where is she at? And it was evident that you were up searching the web and looking, and I knew exactly where you were. And so your message was like, just, you don't know how much that message meant to me, because I was like, whoa, this is a new stage for me. And so so here's that message. So, hello, Valerie, you don't know me, but my husband is currently in the ICU after a fall from a tree. He fractured C7T1. I saw in the group that your husband suffered the same. I'm so scared and I'm not sure what to expect. I know every injury is different. And that was a great start to a very distant friendship.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you're all the way out there in Wisconsin, right? So far away, but like, I messaged you and you messaged right.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
I wouldn't have even noticed that you were not in Wisconsin. I thought you were.
So that's awesome. I mean, that quick message of like, hey, I don't know you, but here I am. Can you help me? And we talked a lot about, so Jodi doesn't have necessarily the medical background, and I just happen to have, I'm a physical therapist assistant. So it was, some of those beginning questions were, I don't know what to do, but then it was like, this is what you need to know. This is what you need to ask those doctors, because both of our circumstances happened during COVID times, and we weren't allowed to be there. And that was horrible. It was horrible. So enough about me. Jodi, why don't we get this started, and why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became a caregiver?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on here. It means a lot, and actually it's very touching, and I teared up a little bit when you brought up that message, because it brings back a lot for me. It brings, not gonna say open up another wound, but it's like a part of your life that just kind of reopens up when you just think back, or read back those moments. But I'm also very proud to say that is now just a covered up wound, because I've come a long way, and with the help of you and other people in this situation, it's been, as Brent and I keep saying, we're not sad anymore. This is, every day is exciting now, because that's all you can do. But back on November 2nd, 2020, my husband went deer hunting, and his tree stand broke, and he fell from his tree stand. He fractured his C7T1, and At that moment, I didn't know that I became a caregiver. I didn't know what was going to happen, but on that day I earned a new role, and it's not a role that most people would grab onto because it's not an easy role. And at the moment, you don't even know that it's not easy. But it's been a year and a half since that title came into play. And now I have to say, in the beginning, I was the caregiver, and I'm not an individual. I don't like change. So you can only imagine how that title is scary. Once Brent was in the hospital for 100 days, and then he came home. When he came home, the nurses and doctors did not prepare us at home. We didn't have a bed. We didn't have a Hoyer lift. We had nothing. So here I am thinking, what am I going to do? A C7, you can't hardly move your arm. I mean, you can move your arms, but you're very limited. And my husband's like 250 pounds. So not physically myself being prepared to handle him, not being trained well because of COVID, it was very hard. And not having the background of PT, I didn't know physically how to man my husband or be that caregiver for him. Not only that, but I also have 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. So it's a lot. It was a lot. It was overwhelming. I got to a state where I was almost to the point of depression. It's hard. It hits you like a brick.
Mm-hmm.
But when I found God. That was one of my biggest things that I found, besides the other people in my life. This journey as a caregiver, you cannot do alone. And that's why I reached out to Valerie. And you have to reach out to people, because you cannot just take caregiver and just run with it. There's really no books on it. You could take a study in it if that's what you wanted to go through life, but otherwise you just get given the title without even asking for it. So it's about the support, the community, and not being afraid to talk with people. And being honest with yourself throughout the whole thing. In the beginning, I knew I couldn't do it myself. So we actually came about and we got a company around this area called KPI, where they bring in nurses. Because I have also 2 jobs. I'm a photographer and I work at a title company. And then I'm a mom. So I just knew I couldn't handle it all. And I don't like change. So I was too afraid to give up anything. So we got KPI involved, and they would come in the morning and they would help Brent get up and take him to his morning therapies. Well, I got my kids to work or to school, and I got myself to work. And we started to get this balance, which worked out really, really well. And that same balance allowed me to be able to be a wife to Brent, to be able to work with him independently too at home, and give my time to him that he needed. It took a long time. I would say we finally got that real good plan maybe about a year into it. It took a year for us to finally get a routine, as the doctors kept saying, a normal life, which I don't like that saying. I don't like it. I never liked it, but it's true. You have to wait for that settling to happen for you to realize, okay, we got this. And then once you can say you got this, then you start moving forward. And I think we finally hit that point where we're moving, and we're now not sad, we're excited. It's an injury that nobody in this world ever wants to have, and I don't wish it upon anybody. But God only gives it to the people that can handle it. And you know what, Valerie, you and I, woohoo, we're great.
Yes,
so
definitely.
That was how I got blessed to be a caregiver, and I can't take it back, and I wouldn't take it back, because I've learned a lot along the way. I've learned a lot about myself, and I have become a better wife. You can take this kind of situation and say, I give up, and walk away from your marriage, because I think a lot of people in this situation do that. And I feel really bad for the other spouse, because they need you. And as much as you got to be able to give away yourself for a moment to gain yourself back. And I think after this year, I've realized, and Brent and I have become closer together. So you've got to realize where the problems are. You've got to address them. If you can't do it yourself, you can't do it yourself. You've got to get the help. If you can't find the help, then there's answers. Reach out to people who actually can give you pointers and stuff, and you can do this. There's always a way, and everything is going to be just fine. I've said every day I wake up, I say, you know what? Today is going to be just fine. And it is. You can always get back to bed at night, and it's a beautiful day. So
you can always start again tomorrow.
Exactly. If today sucks, then we just another day coming.
So I like what you said about the being given the title that you didn't ask for, and you know, it's crazy because I come from a clinical perspective, and you know, a new patient will walk in the door and I say, all right, here we go. We start this
Yeah.
journey. And I had a hard time. I still have a hard time. I won't lie. I still have a hard time shutting off that clinical brain. So like I'll wake up and it's automatically like, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. This needs to be done. And my husband's like, you're a robot. Like stop.
Yeah.
And that did for us. That was a challenge. So,
Yeah.
so speaking of that, you know, you kind of touched base about some of the challenges is that you didn't have that experience. And then of course we didn't have a ton of time during COVID where they brought us in to say, hey, this is how you learn how to do things. So,
Yeah.
So you kind of addressed it a little bit, but like, you know, is there anything that was a big challenge for you and Brent to get through with this process?
I mean, there's a lot of big challenges. I mean, there's multiple things. I know in the very, very beginning when he went to Freighter here in Milwaukee,
Mhm.
and with the COVID and the fact that I didn't know what I was doing, I mean, fear was the biggest thing that we had to get over, being not afraid to fall, fail. Brent, obviously, he couldn't transfer on his own. He couldn't do anything on his own. So, and I think the biggest thing is just Brent's mental game. I'm going to say that is still our biggest challenge today, because every day, as Brent says, his mind wants to do everything, but his body won't let him. And it's every day he's got a moment where he'll let it out. He'll let it out. He'll cry some days. You know, ever since he's got his driver's license back, it's been a huge game changer. But, you know, I know it's great. It's really great. But as not just a caregiver, but his wife, I have to sit there and I sit there and I internalize it. So this is my other point that I'm going to bring up too, is that counseling is not a bad thing. Because like, as I have to sit here and I don't want to talk back with Brent, because I know I don't want this life for myself, and I don't want it for him. But he's got, as a caregiver and a wife, I got to sit there and I got to take it in so that he can get it off his chest and he can move on. But then I sit here with everything he just threw at me, along with the fact that I'm a caregiver, I'm a mom, I'm a photographer, I'm all this stuff. I got to do all this stuff. So you got to let it out as well. So I think the biggest challenge, is definitely the mental game. Because, and as you know, if you've got your mental capacity and you are willing to put the work in and you care about your life, this life is not, it's hard. Okay, I'm not gonna say it's not hard. This life is not impossible.
Right.
You know, so, but it is the mental part of this for him and I would say is the most challenging part of all this.
That's perfect, because Brent had posted that picture of his list, and I loved his list. Like I mean, that put tears in my eyes, not gonna lie. I'm sitting here looking at that and I'm like, yes, okay. And you know, he wrote down a list of everything he's grateful for and everything he wants to work on, and he put that out there. And and I feel like, you know, from what I see, because of course I see what he has you tagged in, which is almost everything, but you know, and that was his list, and he's always putting that out there, what he's grateful for and everything, and I'm happy to see that. But I did comment on that. I was like, you know, he's got the list and he's got the kids and he's got his wife and he's got his parents, and you know, all of this is listed of who he wants to make sure that he's doing, and himself was down like number 7 on the list.
Yes.
Taking care of my mental health and everything. And I commented, I said, move that up the list, because it is hard, and it's hard for him, and it's hard for Chris, and it's hard for you, and it's hard for me. And that's the one thing is that, you know, and everybody, I've got friends that are like, self-care. And of course, in this role, we're like, I'll get to it. So like, I've got other things that are more important. But, you know, and then we come back to that when, you know, I had a room where I would cry. I did. I mean, nobody could get to me there. He couldn't get his wheelchair in there. The kids didn't know where I was at in the house. Bite a towel and be angry and cry. And you know, I saw my doctor, and she was like, she knew me before the injury and everything. And she's like, I know you. Like, yes, you have to do a 1-month follow-up, because I know that if I don't make you do a 1-month follow-up, you won't be here. And if I make you schedule it, you will be here, because I don't miss appointments. So, and so just taking that time for yourself. So yes, absolutely. So now that we've got the hard stuff out of the way, triumphs and wins. Is there anything big that you want to celebrate for you that you've been able to do in this? You're coming up on that window, but we just passed 2 years, so I know you're right behind us. In that 2 year window, what is your triumph and win for you?
A couple things. I would say my triumph and wins are huge because prior to this accident, like I had mentioned, I don't like change. And with this accident, I found that I can take the worst situation and find a silver lining in just about anything. Like I found a way to find a positive spin on everything, because as ugly as this mess is, there's beauty on the outside. And so I really like, it's so like right now I'm sitting underneath like these wire telephone poles that are like beyond ugly. There's clouds everywhere. It's just, but you know what? It's a beautiful day to be alive. My kids got up at a great time. I got my coffee here. I'm having a great conversation. It's just life can, yes, see, we got our coffee.
Cheers.
Cheers. I can find my time. And I found that through the almost 2 years, I know that when I need to take time for myself also is number two. I tell Brent, and he's learned that I say, Brent, I need a minute. Because we have two small kids that are 3 and 5. They're crazy right now. And I'm like, Brent, I need a minute. He'll try and occupy them as much as he can. I'll go outside and just sit by myself. But I know now when I need my time. I know when I can't do things. I know, and I love that about what's happened, is that I can now pick things out when I need to make some changes, because it's beautiful. And I told Brent, I'm like, if it wasn't for this accident, and I might cry a little bit, but it's true, like, I found God in all this. I found myself in all this. I found purpose. Before Brent's accident, Brent and I used to always take, what we're going to do with our life. We'd say all this stuff. And through this accident, like, we found why, he still asks why, because we really don't know why, but we're like, there's just something about what happened that's so much greater than anybody would have ever known. And I just hope that anybody in this situation can actually find that there is actually good that can come out of this. Truly, like, of course we want him to walk again, and who knows what will happen in time, and we don't give up hope. Hope is the other thing that we found. Hope is there always. So don't ever give on hope. Don't let anybody burst your hope bubble, because if they do, then they don't belong in your life. So
that's absolutely correct. Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I seen his pool video. Dave, I call him Dave. Chris was in the pool yesterday as well. So water therapy is huge. And,
it's huge.
And all that.
Brent would give up everything just to be in the water. It's amazing. I hope you can work something out though to get your pool chair, because how amazing would that be?
Trying, and cool. You guys will just have to come out and take a trip, and we'll just have a big pool day, and then we'll know they'll be able to get in and enjoy themselves, because that limit of inaccessibility will not be there. So, okay. All right. Final big question. What would you tell someone that is just starting on their journey?
So, and I'm gonna think of this as if I'm talking to myself. So if I was looking back and talking to myself a year and a half ago after hearing this message, the first thing I would tell myself is to obviously take a deep breath. That's most common thing, which is hard to do in that situation. But I would seriously say, don't listen to everything you say while you're in the hospital. I would say lean on the people who have experienced it before you lean more on the people who are getting your spouse, significant other, whoever it is, in medically through it. And then I'll also say that once you're able to come home, to just reach out. just reach out to whomever. Valerie's here, I'm here, there's other people out there. We got your back. There's people out there who got your back. Don't be afraid. One of my biggest things was there's a Facebook group for spinal cord injuries. I couldn't get myself to get in that group. I didn't want to hear anything that they had to say. No way. Nope. Because I didn't know that my husband's not going to be like that. But it is so good to get into those groups because everybody there understands. And once people understand you, you feel like you have an army behind you. So I would 100% reach out to people and just don't be afraid to get into groups.
Absolutely. That's perfect. I had a good friend that went through some stuff in her life. And when this all happened, it's overwhelming. It really is, where people are like, everybody wants to help. And at that time, there was nothing anybody could do. There was nothing I could do. They were like, how's he doing? I'm like, I don't know. I was at the mercy of calling in every shift and trying to get an update when he was in you and everything.
Oh yeah, for like 3 hours.
Yeah. And you're waiting.
You had to.
Yeah, and I felt bad. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm calling again, but I'm just looking for the update because it was so touch and go in the beginning. Like, I actually had a nurse tell me, like, we don't know how this is going to turn out. Like, he's really bad. And that was about 3 shifts in, I want to say. Like, a nurse finally said, hey, you need to understand, this isn't all, he's not over here smiling and being happy. Like, he's out of it. He's pretty messed up. And of course, I'm sitting in a hotel room a mile down the street because I refused to leave the city that he was in. And I just was like, okay, all right, okay. And it was just every 8 hours, it was like starting that all over again. And a good friend told me, she said, in the beginning, everybody's going to be here. And for 3 months, you're just going to feel bombarded and everybody wants to help. But at some point, everybody else goes back to life. They go back to what they have to be doing. They've got their own lives to live. And she's like, don't be offended when that happens because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a little bit. You're going to say, where the heck did everybody go? Like, where's all the help that I needed, But she said, when that time happens, that's when you call me because I get it. And I've held on to that. And every single person that has gone through something that has been like this, that's exactly what I've told them. And I said, when you have that moment, call me because that's what it is. And we just try to share that message of like, there's going to be a time where you're going to feel alone. And it's about that 3 to 6 month window where everything drops off. And I don't want anybody listening to this to be like, holy crap, I dropped the ball on Val or anything. And it's not that. It's that this is what happens in every single experience we go through, and that's when it's important to look for those groups. And it's important to look for people like us who've been through this and say, hey, we understand. We get it. Here we are. Cry. Have your cry. Like, we're kind of raised in a society where, crying is a sign of weakness and everything else. And I assure you, there's nothing weak about being a caregiver. There's nothing. Like, you can take on anything. There's no challenge that can come my way that I'm not prepared for. It's we've seen it all. And then some. Yes. So perfect. That is great. I gotta put this on.
Yay!
So I live in Arizona, so I don't get to wear the beanie very often, but I do get to wear the beanie when it gets cold for that 1 to 2 months in Arizona.
Can you tell me what cold means?
What cold means to me? So I'm an Arizona native, so I've been here my entire life, and I'm a summer baby. So if it is 70 degrees and windy, I'm cold.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's
you need to come to
60s,
Wisconsin.
I don't want to go out.
Come to Wisconsin in January when it's like -30. Bring that hat with you.
You can come swimming at my house. We won't be getting in because it'll be cold for us. But I don't know how all those people do that whole like ice fishing or even living life in general. Like, no, ice is terrible.
I've been here today and I don't like it. It's
I'm not
humid right now, and I'm like sweating.
I have very straight hair, so if my hair gets curly, I know that that's too much and I need to go home. There's a reason they say it's a dry heat. So real quick, I would be completely a horrible person if I didn't mention Bachik Methods in Austin, Texas. Is where Brent has been doing what you guys go at least once a year so far, right? Or
twice a year we've been trying to go. So
okay, I did see him go twice. Okay. They are not your regular kind of neuro PT, and I love that, and I'm here for that. And I'm here for that not only as a spinal cord injury caregiver, but also clinically, like as a PTA. I love it. I love what they do. They make him get up and they make him reconnect, and I love that they do that. So Jodi and Brent typically want to be able to go twice a year, and mind you, they are in Wisconsin and they need to travel all the way down to Texas. So I will put this link. They've got a classy.org campaign for Brent's fundraising to get him back down to Texas to continue his therapy. One thing that people might not know is that, you know, with spinal cord injuries, and both Brent and Chris are both incomplete spinal cord injuries, which means their spinal cord was not severed completely. When that spinal cord is severed, then there is, I don't want to ever say there's no hope, but there's very little chance of return of anything. That's typically where, you know, you see the guys, like when they do their transfers, they pick their leg up and they move it over because they don't feel that there's no nothing. In our case, because there's still that connection, sometimes when Chris makes a transfer, he gets the spasms and all, because that's how his body's reacting to that movement. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that too.
Oh yes.
So he goes down to Texas to do this mind-blowing therapy, to do the most he can to, one, be more independent, and then also to return his level. And so I will post the link below for the fundraiser to make sure that if I've got friends listening, that they can spare some change and send that over to the fundraiser to get you guys back down to Texas to continue that therapy. That would be great.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
And then also, is this one still going, or is this one over? And then maybe we need to do like a Brent Strong 2.0 next year, because I've got a good friend that has, a good friend of mine has an injury, a completely different thing, but he's got an injury and he refers to himself as Sean 2.0. And so I'm like, okay. And as we've come in through this second year, I'm like, okay, now I get it. Like there's phases. There really is phases of recovery and all. So awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add that I missed, or anything of that nature?
Well, we could go on and on and on, but
I know
I think,
there's always room for another podcast.
Yes. No, this is a good starting point. Now, I was glad to be able to share this stuff, and it's, you know, it's refreshing to share it again. You get back into your normal routine. I mean, it sounds weird, but now it's like a normal routine now, so it's good to kind of look back to be like, we are strong women. You know what I mean? We're good. I love it. So, and I really appreciate this podcast.
You've come a long way. You've come a long way. You
I know.
When you go back and reflect, we're like, well, at least I'm not sitting on the floor
in a ball.
In a ball, in a fetal position, like going, what the hell am I supposed to do?
I was there. That had happened.
Yeah. And it'll be, you know, it'd be interesting, I think, to have another, you know, touch base on how kids do. And, you know, how the kids are resilient. And I know my son, when we explained where his injuries were and what was going on with Dad, he said, is Dad okay? I said, Dad is okay. We're going to figure out how to fix this. And he said, as long as Dad's okay, I'm okay. Yeah. And he was 8 when the accident happened. So we had his ninth birthday was celebrated outside the window of the rehab facility. Yeah. So, Chris's OT team and PT team, they got him all dressed and everything, and then helped him make a sign, and the sign was on the window. So when we came up, it said, you know, happy birthday, Nate, and everything. And so, you know, it's always interesting to see a perspective outside of our own of how this all went down and what they saw us go through. So your girls are pretty young, but I know that there's still those memories that will be there. So 100%. Okay. Awesome. Well, Jodi, I greatly appreciate you sharing your story and your journey and being here to share. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot to unload sometimes, and when you actually take the time to say, well, how am I? So I hope that anybody listening, if you're at the beginning of your journey, we're here. And like I said, when everybody else falls off you can come on over and join our team. And
Yep. We're here for you.
Like you said, we're an army waiting behind you. So,
and we promise you will see the light. There is a light.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is.
Absolutely. Yep. So hashtag Brent Strong. I look forward to seeing where Brent's going. He's going in the right direction. And
yeah, I always love watching your posts too.
Yeah.
He's doing so great there too.
It's fun to just, I think we kind of shock and wow people, because not everybody knows what's going on here. And like, there for a long time, we had to kind of keep things quiet because we were in the middle of a lawsuit and everything. So once that was over, it was like, okay, well, here's where we've been for the last year. And I think that blew away a lot of people because they didn't expect a good outcome of what this was, and to see how far these guys have worked to get back as much as possible. It's amazing. So
Yep.
Awesome. Well, that concludes this episode. This is episode 3 of Finding Hope Along the Journey. I'll be back next week, of course, and I'll find something fun to talk to you all about. Always do.
I'll be listening.
Awesome. I appreciate it. So, so that concludes this episode. I will be back next week, and you all have a safe and wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.